Why is it that the souls who see the deepest are born into the darkest homes? The ones who came here to heal are raised by those who never learned how to love. You think it's a mistake that the universe placed your light in the middle of chaos. But what if it didn't? What if the storm wasn't a curse, but the initiation? Because the truth is, the strongest souls aren't born in peace. They're forged in friction. And maybe, just maybe, the family that broke you was the fire that woke you. You've spent years wondering, why me? Why was I born into this? Why did the ones meant to protect me become the ones I had to protect myself from? You thought it was a cosmic error, that the universe had misplaced your soul. But there are no accidents in the architecture of awakening. You were sent into the storm, not to drown, but to remember how to breathe beneath the waves. Because growth does not bloom in comfort, it blooms in contrast. The light inside you needed resistance, needed darkness dense enough to see what it truly was, and so you were placed among the broken, not to become like them, but to see through them, to recognize illusion when it wears the mask of love. The pain was never punishment. It was placement. The universe was not being cruel, it was being precise. It sent your soul exactly where awakening would cost you everything, so that, one day, you would understand what cannot be taken away. We were taught that awakening is gentle, that it happens on mountaintops in quiet temples, through stillness and serenity. But the real awakening is violent. It tears through you like thunder through glass. It burns everything you thought you were, until nothing false can survive the flame. Because light is not born from peace, it's born from pressure. The universe doesn't whisper to you through comfort. It roars through collapse, through betrayal, through the moment you realize no one is coming to save you. That's the fire, the sacred destruction that strips you naked of every illusion you ever called home. You see, a soft life teaches nothing. A perfect family would have kept you asleep. Because when everything flows, there's no reason to question the river. But when the current drags you under, when love becomes confusion, and belonging becomes exile, something ancient inside you begins to stir. You start asking questions no one around you dares to ask. What is love? What is truth? Who am I beneath all this noise? That's the moment your soul begins to wake, not through meditation, but through confrontation. Not through books, but through heartbreak. Because pain has a language the mind cannot ignore. It speaks directly to your essence, to the part of you that remembers. And as everything you depended on falls apart, you discover something terrifying and beautiful. That what you thought was breaking you was actually breaking you open. That the fire consuming your life wasn't sent to destroy you, but to forge you into something untouchable, unrepeatable, real. The awakening doesn't happen in the light. It happens when the light has been taken. And the only thing left is the raw, trembling truth of your own soul, glowing quietly in the ashes, whispering, now, begin. Every soul carries a grain of sand, a small, unbearable irritation lodged deep within the heart the moment you were hurt, unseen, unloved. You tried to shake it loose, to forget it, but it stayed, grinding quietly against your being. Most people spend their lives running from that grain, building masks, distractions, identities to hide the discomfort. But you were chosen to feel it, to hold it, to let it cut you open until you understood what it came to teach. Just like the oyster, when the sand enters, it bleeds. It cannot escape it, so it begins to create. Layer upon layer, pain transforms into beauty. The wound becomes a womb, the irritation becomes a pearl. That's what your suffering was doing, teaching you to alchemize pain into presence, teaching you to turn what was unbearable into something eternal. You see, anyone can love when they are loved, but it takes an ancient soul to learn love from its absence. And that's what your life has been, not punishment, but training. Every betrayal sanding away the false layers, every rejection polishing the surface of your awareness, until only the essence remained, the part of you that no one could damage. You mistook it for loss, but it was refinement. The universe was sculpting you into someone who could see beyond illusion, someone who could love without condition. Because you've met every condition and found them all empty. The pain didn't end you. It revealed you. The ones who were born in comfort learn how to smile, but the ones who were born in chaos learn how to see. And that sight, that fierce, unfiltered awareness is what turns the grain of sand into something sacred. So when you look back on the ones who wounded you, don't thank them, but understand them. They were not the creators of your pain, they were the hands of the divine sculptor. Rough, unrefined, unaware, but still part of the design. The pain was never the end of your story, it was the forge. And the pearl you've become is proof that even in the darkest ocean, beauty can be born from the wound. No wound shapes the soul more than a wound in the name of love, because when love is mixed with fear, control, or silence, the heart loses its compass. You were taught that love was earned, that affection was a currency, that closeness had conditions. So you kept shrinking to fit inside someone else's comfort. And in that shrinking, you mistook survival for devotion. You called anxiety attachment and silence peace. But one day the pattern cracked. The script no longer made sense. You began to feel the difference between being loved and being needed, between being chosen and being used. That fracture, that unbearable dissonance, was not the end of love. It was the beginning of real love. Because to awaken, the soul must first become disillusioned. It must see how counterfeit love feels against the skin, how manipulation dresses itself as care, how the phrase, "I'm doing this for your own good," can sometimes mean I cannot face my own emptiness. You were never meant to hate them for this. You were meant to see through it, to recognize that they gave you the opposite of love, so you could learn what love truly is. Love that doesn't chain, doesn't demand, doesn't disappear when you stand in your truth. And when you finally stopped chasing the ghost of approval, something extraordinary happened. The love you had been begging for began to rise from inside you. That quiet presence you feel when you stop running. That's love without an object, the kind that doesn't ask to be deserved, the kind that doesn't vanish when unseen. The confusion of love was never punishment, it was initiation, because only by losing false love can you recognize the real. Only by being starved of affection can you learn the taste of authenticity. You weren't abandoned by love, you were being re-educated by it. And the moment you understood this, when you stopped asking, "Why didn't they love me?" and started asking, "What is love truly?" that's when the alchemy began. The same love that once broke you became the love that now frees you. What if the pain you carry isn't only yours? What if it began long before you, echoing through the bloodline, passed down like an unfinished prayer? Generations of silence, repression, unspoken rage, unhealed grief, all flowing through the veins of time until it reached you. And maybe you've wondered, why does it feel so heavy? Why do I sense pain that doesn't even belong to me? It's because your soul agreed to be the last vessel, the one who says this ends here. You were born into their storm not to drown in it, but to understand it, to name it, to transmute it. The anger they never faced, you faced. The shame they buried, you unearthed. The love they couldn't give, you learned to give yourself. That is the sacred role of the breaker, the one who turns inherited pain into embodied wisdom. It's not glamorous work, it's lonely, it's raw, because you are trying to build peace in a house built from generations of war. But make no mistake, you are not cursed. You are chosen, not in the way ego imagines, but in the way that souls are appointed, by endurance, by strength, by readiness. You came to feel everything they couldn't. You came to bring light where they could only bring shadow. You may not heal them, but by healing yourself, you rewrite the story for everyone who came before and everyone who will come after. Because healing moves both ways, backward through memory and forward through legacy. The moment you choose differently, you change the entire bloodline. The moment you forgive without forgetting, the chain snaps. And the souls behind you, the ones who suffered in silence, finally exhale. You, child of contrast, are the end of their karma and the beginning of your own light. You were never meant to repeat their story. You were meant to finish it. Not every teacher enters your life with kind eyes and gentle hands. Some arrive as chaos. Some teach through cruelty. Some through silence so deep it echoes. And yet, they teach. The universe doesn't always whisper wisdom. Sometimes it shouts it through the mouths of those who wound you. You expected love to guide your growth. Instead, it was betrayal that opened your eyes. The people who broke you, were also the ones who revealed the architecture of illusion. They showed you what happens when a human being forgets their soul. They showed you what it looks like to live asleep, repeating the patterns they never questioned, mistaking control for care, fear for love, endurance for strength. They were mirrors, cracked but honest. Every time they took from you, they exposed what you truly valued. Every time they lied, they deepened your reverence for truth. Every time they shut the door, they forced you to build your own. These are the brutal blessings of awakening. Wisdom by opposition. Because sometimes the only way to remember who you are is to meet everything you are not. Pain taught you clarity. Loss taught you presence. Abandonment taught you the art of returning to yourself. You learned what real strength is, not from those who protected you, but from those who didn't. You learned that kindness means nothing until it's tested by cruelty. You learned that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to stay centered while the storm speaks your name. The universe was never punishing you, it was educating you through contrast, the fire, the rejection, the chaos. All of it was the curriculum. And when you finally stopped asking, "Why me?" and began whispering, "Teach me," that's when everything changed. Because pain, once understood, becomes perspective. And the ones who once hurt you, without ever knowing it, became the sculptors of your awakening. There comes a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when you stop asking for a different past and start shaping a different future. That is the moment of true choice. The day you realize you are no longer a continuation of your family's story, but the author of your own. You see, most people never choose who they become. They inherit themselves. Fragments of their parents' fears, their culture's noise, their society's dreams. They move like sleepwalkers through patterns they never questioned. But your suffering woke you up. Pain ripped the script from your hands and asked, "Now, who do you want to be?" That's the terrifying beauty of awakening. Nothing is automatic anymore. Every word, every action, every silence becomes sacred because now you are aware. You can no longer blame your reflection on the mirror. You decide what love means. You decide what stays and what goes. You decide which wounds end with you and which wisdom begins because of you. The world still tries to pull you back into old identities, into guilt that isn't yours. But now you can feel the distance, can't you? You can sense the split between what's inherited and what's chosen. That space, that breath between reaction and response, is where the soul lives. And when you act from there, you are no longer a product of pain. You are the presence that transforms it. That's the real freedom, not the escape from the past, but the power to meet it without becoming it. The birth of true choice is the death of unconsciousness. It's when you finally stop repeating what hurt you and begin creating what heals you. And in that sacred act of creation, you become what your ancestors never could. You become the living proof that pain can evolve into purpose. That awakening was never the end. It was the beginning of your becoming. Once you awaken, love changes shape. It's no longer the desperate hunger for closeness, it becomes a quiet clarity. You begin to understand that compassion and distance can exist in the same breath. You no longer confuse forgiveness with permission, or kindness with self-betrayal. You stop letting guilt disguise itself as love. Because real love, the kind born from awareness, does not demand your suffering as proof. It doesn't ask you to bleed to belong. You can wish someone healing without stepping back into their chaos. You can love a person's soul while protecting yourself from their behavior. That's not cruelty. That's evolution. You finally see that boundaries are not walls, they are the shape of your self-respect. They are the architecture of peace. You no longer carry the burden of saving those who refuse to see, because you've learned every soul must awaken in its own season, in its own storm. You do not awaken others by dragging them into your light. You awaken them by standing in it until they remember their own. This is compassion without illusion, the kind that loves without losing itself. You can look at your family now and see not villains, not victims, but travelers, each walking the same labyrinth of forgetting. And when you see this clearly, something sacred happens. The heart softens, not in weakness but in truth. You no longer need to fight what was. You simply choose what is. And in that choosing, the cycle finally ends. Because freedom is not escape, it's presence. It's the moment you can look at everything that once destroyed you and feel nothing but stillness. That is when you know the lesson is complete. You've learned to love without losing your light. When you look back now, you can finally see it. The pattern beneath the pain, the design inside the chaos. Nothing was wasted. Not a single tear. Not a single night you questioned your own worth. Not a single moment you felt abandoned by the world. All of it was alchemy. You thought the suffering was breaking you, but it was breaking you open. The fire that burned your illusions revealed the truth beneath them. The emptiness that once terrified you is now the space where your soul breathes. The love you searched for in others became the love you found in yourself. And that shift from external craving to internal knowing is the moment the pearl forms. The pearl is not the wound, it is what you built around the wound. It is the wisdom born from sorrow, the clarity carved by loss, the compassion softened by fire. It is the realization that nothing and no one can take from you what you have already become. Your past does not define you, it refines you. Your family did not shape your worth, they shaped your awakening. And the pain you once cursed now stands revealed as the doorway to your highest self. You are not the continuation of their story. You are the correction. You are the evolution. You are the one who walked into the fire and emerged carrying light. This is the hidden gift. The truth your soul always knew. You were never placed in darkness to be broken. You were placed in darkness so you could learn how to shine. And if there is one truth you carry with you after this, let it be this. You are not what happened to you. You are what you chose to become in spite of it. The wound was the doorway. The fire was the teacher. The darkness was the initiation. But the light was always you. Walk forward now, not as the one who suffered, but as the one who transformed. The cycle ends with you. The healing begins with you. And the world is different because you chose to wake up.